Hey you, thanks for joining me. So today I want to talk about how we're all living in a bubble, but I also want this to be a more nuanced conversation. So I am going to be talking about how I have been reflecting on the bubble that I feel like I'm living in, but I also want to talk about how I think sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. That we need to find a balance. And I don't know what that balance is. This video is just basically me having some thoughts, wondering what the heck we do to find balance in this. So, if you haven't been able to guess by the timing of this video is quite inspired by the results of the 2024 presidential election in the States. I am Canadian, so I am not as directly involved as people who are in the United States. Definitely is something that is relevant for us to talk about, just also on like a global scale. We need to be talking about these things. So, as I'm going through this video, my views are probably going to be quite obvious, and I do not mean this in a way to shut out anyone from this conversation. So, whatever side of this you are on, I want us to have a space to think about these things. So, just keep that in mind that part of this video is just me because I was trying to figure out the other side of things. So, I really was shocked by the results of this election. I genuinely did not think that he who I do not want to name would be elected because everything that I saw reiterated that belief. And I try to expose myself to like different points of view, but I think by me trying to be educated in other areas, I am still in a bubble. I am always questioning things and I'm always questioning norms and also totally fine at this point of my life not fitting into any boxes. So I have never known what like the vast majority of people's experience is, but I do expose myself to the ideas of a lot of people who are in other little subgroups, which I guess does add to my bubble. There's still a lot of people that I do not understand and that I do not get perspectives from. And I did hear people talking about like what the approval ratings were, and I was like, no, I don't really believe that that's legit. I don't know why. That was the one thing that like I did hear that gave me a little bit of fear, that that was just like the world that I was exposed to. I did not see the other side of things. So I did not transition this very well, but I'm going to go from talking about some of my own things to thinking of some things that would make someone have a very different bubble from mine. So that's what I'm going to go running on into now. I do not know what it is like to be illiterate and how challenging it would be to actually get information in a balanced way if I could not read, or if I did not have good media literacy, if I did not know how to kind of back up looking up information. The other day I was just thinking about like even things like logical fallacies. Logical fallacies are something that I remember learning about in university. However, I do not remember learning about this in like high school. And also, if I did learn about it in high school, it was probably like grade 11 or 12. So there's already a number of people that just are not likely exposed to the ideas of logical fallacy. Logical fallacies are used all the time in politics. And if you're not aware of them, you may more easily fall victim to them. So just the idea of like being more educated, it's challenging to just know what you don't know. While I was doing some research for this video, I was looking into like where people get their news from. And I stumbled upon this research from the Pew Research Center that shows like how people are getting news from social media, which is something to kind of think about when we're thinking about these bubbles. And I saw two sites on there that I was like, I don't even know what these are. So there's Rumble and Truth Social, which are both sites that I guess are more right leaning. And Rumble is basically an alternative to YouTube, and Truth Social is basically an alternative to Twitter. And in terms of the percent of US adults who are regularly getting their news from these sites, it's not a lot. Like it's
2% for Rumble, 3% for Truth Social. However, there are a good chunk of those people who are using those sites for news. So if we look at a little bit more from Pew Research Center, under the Rumble, we've got 48% of people who are on that site are using that site for news. 57% of the people on Truth Social are using that site for news. Comparatively, the other high ranking ones, we've got like Twitter slash X, TikTok, and Facebook are higher on the end of where people are getting their news from. So just interesting to think about, like, there's social media sites that I use and there's social media sites that I do not touch. So those are just another example. And then within those sites, we all have our own bubbles. So just lots of different bubbles. And even when we try to like expand out of them, um, we don't really know what we're not seeing.
So I can appreciate that there are views that are very firmly ingrained into people who are in religious groups. I can understand that there is resistance there, that there is a lot of stuff that you have to overcome to change your views. And that if you are in an environment like that, that a lot of the people around you are going to be echoing the same things. And it is really, really hard to escape those things. So I want to say that I can understand there are a lot of barriers in place for even seeing things in a way that to me is a logical way of seeing things. And I have to be aware that I have so many privileges in terms of like A, that I've just said screw it to social norms. That B, I have been exposed to a lot of religious ideals, but I have been able to kind of think beyond those things and get to a place where like that is not something that controls my life at all. Where is the balance between understanding that this is like the side that other people are on, but also I don't want to spend too much time on that. I want to like get a little bit, but not a lot. I don't want. I don't know what the balance is. I really do not. My side of the internet is cozy. I like my side of the internet. If you go to like YouTube from like a no account, just no internet history, YouTube front page. Oh, I don't like that side of the internet. I don't really want to be exposed to all shit all the time. And the thing is that I don't want to mess up my internet algorithms by trying to see other sides. It's almost like you want to have like two accounts, but then you also don't know with these filter bubbles how much of these two accounts, like how much is already influenced by what tracking stuff there is about who you are that you don't know is being tracked when you're making this account. Because I suspect there is a little bit of that. Like I've made multiple Instagram accounts before just to like follow different topics, but like it's weird how there was overlap in certain things that kept coming up, and it's like maybe that's just like how I'm responding to things. It's shoving me this stuff. Maybe this is just being shoved to a lot of people. But also, I don't know. I don't know. It's a little suspicious to me. So I don't know. Do we create separate accounts, get really into like having very separate places that we look at these things? Do we schedule like weekly like sessions where we like learn a little bit about the other side of the internet, and then also I think the other bits of the day you have to focus on self-care, right? And I almost wish there was like an easier way to access this info, because it's like, okay, do you subscribe to like one of these other websites just to see, but I also don't want to contribute to their numbers at all. But also I want to know. So how do we do this in a safe way? How are there any websites that literally show like both sides? I know there's like Ground News that I've seen some sponsorships for. Uh, is that something that is good to use? But is that also closing us off from like these completely other sides? I don't know. To end this, I think it's important to think about how we are in our own little bubbles, how other people are in their own little bubbles, but also what the barriers are for people leaving those bubbles. Like it's easy to divide things into like this makes sense and this doesn't. But there are so many things like money, like exposure to education, literacy, what religion you have had kind of forced onto you or that you have grown up to feel like you belong into, um, what things people you trust have told you. I think all of that can really contribute to the bubbles that other people are in and the bubbles that I do not understand. I think we can't all cut everyone with different views out of our sphere. And as tempting as that can be, I think that may actually lead to more harm than good in some ways. Because we all change our minds. Like, it's like when I think about how I change in things that I've done in my life, it's not through like aggressive messaging. It's through like subtle things that kind of build up. But if you cannot do that right now, I understand. I just think for people who can, who have some ability to do it, we need to find a balance. We need to find a safe way to do these things and still value ourselves and our needs. So, yeah, I don't have any answers. I'm not going to tell you how to think because that is scary. Anyone telling you how to think and what to think is something that I think you should be questioning. Um, but also, I just want to promote sharing of ideas. If you want to leave a comment, let me know what you do to try and like get out of your bubble and what you do to try to make sure that your bubble feels like a safe, healthy place for you to be in, and what you do to take care of yourself in this time. Like, we need to take care of ourselves. We also need to try to improve the world because a lot of things recently have been scary.